नवकञ्जलोचन कञ्जमुखकर कञ्जपदकञ्जारुणं श्रीराम श्रीराम। कंदर्प अगणित अमित छवि नवनील नीरद सुंदरम पटपीत मानहु तडित रुचि शुचि नोमि जनक सुतावरम श्रीरामचन्द्र कृपालु भजमन हरण भव भयदारुणं नवकञ्जलोचन कञ्जमुखकर कञ्जपदकञ्जारुणं श्रीराम श्रीराम। भजु दीन बंधु दिनेश दानव दैत्य वंश निकंदनम रघुनंद आनंद कंद कौशल चंद दशरथ नंदनम श्रीरामचन्द्र कृपालु भजुमन हरण भव भयदारुणं नवकञ्जलोचन कञ्जमुखकर कञ्जपदकञ्जारुणं श्रीराम श्रीराम। शिरमुकुट कुण्डल तिलक चारु उदारु अण्ड विभूषणम् आजानुभुज शर चापधर संग्राम जित खर दूषणम् श्रीरामचन्द्र कृपालु भजुमन हरण भव भयदारुणं नवकञ्जलोचन कञ्जमुखकर कञ्जपदकञ्जारुणं श्रीराम श्रीराम। इति वदति तुलसीदास शंकर शेष मुनि मनरंजन मम हृदय कंज निवास कुरु कामादिखल दल गंजनम श्रीरामचन्द्र कृपालु भजुमन हरण भव भयदारुणं नवकञ्जलोचन कञ्जमुखकर कञ्जपदकञ्जारुणं श्रीरामचन्द्र कृपालु भजुमन हरण भव भयदारुणं नवकञ्जलोचन कञ्जमुखकर कञ्जपदकञ्जारुणं श्रीराम श्रीराम। कंदर्प अगणित अमित छवि नवनील नीरद सुंदरम पटपीत मानहु तडित रुचि शुचि नोमि जनक सुतावरम श्रीरामचन्द्र कृपालु भज मन हरण भव भय दारुणम् नवकञ्जलोचन कञ्जमुखकर कञ्जपदकञ्जारुणम् श्रीराम श्रीराम।
Welcome to Satsang. Such a joy to be with you all in your rooms, in your homes, in your apartments, as together we allow ourselves to really experience that which is so new and so different, and yet that which is the same. To really find that very interesting place where we sit in awareness that everything's changed. How we work, how we travel, how we love, how we show that love. All of that's changed. And the core is the same. And the spiritual imperative, the imperative for awakening in this moment, is to be able to sit in both places simultaneously. To be fully present that everything's changed. No, it's not going to go back to normal. It may never go back to what it was before. It's all changed. And nothing has changed. Who you are, consciousness, awareness, hasn't changed. The teaching of awareness was always that which exists as that field in which everything else is happening. So the teaching of awareness, the teaching of consciousness, the teaching of mindfulness has always been to be anchored and grounded in that, which has nothing to do with what's going on. So I'm grocery shopping, fine, it's what the body's doing. My awareness is just being aware that grocery shopping is happening. I'm working, fine. Awareness is aware that typing is happening or meetings are happening. accounting is happening, whatever the work may be. I'm eating. Fine. But awareness is just aware. Eating is happening. And so that unchanging field of awareness, of consciousness, that hasn't changed. It's just different things are bouncing in that field than used to bounce in the field. Different things are taking place in the field that we are aware of. But if we've practiced meditative awareness and consciousness before, we know that that which is bouncing in the field always changes. I'm happy this moment because I found a good discount at the shopping center. Happy at this moment there was a parking space available right in front. Happy at this moment someone who matters to me was loving and respectful, caring, tender, compassionate. A few hours later, frustrated, couldn't find a parking spot at all. The guy not only refused to give me a discount, but jacked up the price. Cheated me, I'm sure. Someone who matters to me wasn't loving or respectful. But awareness the whole time has just been aware. And so in this moment, the soil in which awakening is happening is a soil in which we are able to continue to anchor ourselves in awareness, in consciousness that is the same, that has never changed, that is eternal, that is unchanging as its nature. And to be simultaneously aware, open to, compassionate toward a lot of change. But to be aware that it's change in that which is bouncing on the surface of the field of awareness. And on some level, the energy of the field itself is changing. I think that's temporary. But as we know, when you get enough people with the same intention, powerfully, things change. That's what all of the incredible studies on the power of thought and the power of intention show. Get a group of people together with an intention toward peace, and we can actually drop crime in a city. Get people with an intention toward ones or zeros, and you can actually change the output of a random number generator. And what we now have is a planet full of people whose intention is rooted these days in anxiety, in stress, in fear, in lack, whether I've got lack of time, lack of health, lack of money, lack of freedom, lack of options, lack of love, lack of company. You've got, tragically so, sort of this global synchronized moment of intention that so many people have tried to make happen for decades, but tragically that intention is much more toward the stress and fear and lack. And so part of our awareness is to simply be aware that, the energy of the field feels different. There is a tension, a stress in it. But that's on the surface level. It's not on the nature of the field itself, which is consciousness. Consciousness doesn't change. It's not dependent on my nervous system, workings of my brain. And so as we sit, we allow ourselves to really experience the coming together of these two realities. One, everything's changing, even the energetic field. And two, nothing's changed. At the core, at the highest, the deepest, nothing's changed. And we, as people who are committed to consciousness, to mindfulness, to awareness, to spirituality, it becomes incumbent on us then to change the nature of that stress in the field, to infuse that field with the intention of love, the intention of abundance, the intention of faith. And that becomes our calling right now, as we anchor ourselves in that which doesn't change, which is ourselves. So, welcome to Satsang. And I'm so glad to be able to connect with you all and dive together into this beautiful truth. So the first question this evening says, Dearest Sadhviji, could you please share how we can tell the difference between our ego and our inner knowing? With much love and thanks. Our ego and our inner knowing. So it's more subtle than it may seem. On the surface, it may seem obvious. Well, the ego is the ego, and the inner voice is the inner voice. But it only seems simple if you've never actually tried to tease them apart. The minute that you've actually ever really tried to go in with the power of discrimination, you realize how subtle it is. And it's subtle because the ego is a chameleon. The ego is like one of those character actors who, whatever the role is, can do it. Villain today, hero tomorrow, damsel in distress the next day, king the next day, minister the day after, beggar at the door next week. And all of the roles brilliantly. And so the ego, if it knows that you are looking for the voice of your inner knowing, well, the ego says, I can do that. I've got an inner knowing hat. I've got an inner knowing mask, an inner knowing script, no problem. Inner knowing, I got that down. And so then the ego, under the guise of inner knowing, starts filling you with pretty much all kinds of nonsense. But because it came from inside, it's an inner voice. So there isn't, unfortunately, an equation that I can say, if there's two A's and no B, then it's your ego. And if there's one A and one B, it's inner knowing. There isn't an equation like that. But we have cues. For example, the ego tends to be very focused on what I'm going to get out of something. So the ego tends to be very focused on where I am supposed to be in a particular situation, what my role is supposed to be, what my piece there is. And the inner voice, inner knowing, isn't nearly as focused on that, because the inner self is so connected with the divine self that it doesn't need to artificially create its own role. The inner self is very happy to sit quietly. The inner self is very happy to be the one behind the scenes. This is why when we do this beautiful yagna ceremony that we perform, the fire ceremony, we place these offerings into the fire. And it's this beautiful reminder that our roles in life, when we are really connected and attuned, are not about, oh God, put me in the center. Then you just get burned, literally, in the fire. But rather, oh God, let me be on the outside, offering in, offering in, offering in. So if you find yourself thinking about, this is going to be my role, this is going to be my thing, this is going to be my name, chances are it's ego. That's one way to know. If you find yourself doubting your own worthiness, it's ego. Because the ego, of course, works not only in the, you should be the highest, the best role, but the ego also works the other way. The ego is also the one who says, you're nothing, you're stupid, you can't do it, you're not worthy. Who the hell do you think you are? How dare you for having these thoughts? You're arrogant. That's ego. So if you find yourself saying, no, I'm not good enough. No, I'm not worthy. No, I'm too old or young, stupid, poor, uneducated, injured, tainted. That's your ego. The inner knowing knows you're divine. Knows that you've been created by perfection out of perfection. Knows that whatever you are supposed to do in life, you've been given the tools. Another way, the ego tends to usually be that makes us contract. So the ego tends to focus us and contract us around a very particular idea, issue, hurt, thing. So the ego is the one that's all about, I don't like this, I don't like this, this is wrong, this is a problem, that's ego. Because the ego just makes us contract. We get smaller and smaller and smaller. Everything else is other. Everything else is them. And that which is self, that which is us, gets smaller and smaller. But the inner knowing expands and expands and expands and starts including more and more in us. So the ego's the one who says, that's not my concern. That's not my job. The inner knowing is the one who knows I'm one with everything. Doesn't necessarily mean I'm meant to solve every particular problem or get involved in every particular situation. But it means that I'm not separate. It means that there is nothing that is not me. It's expansive. Lastly, I mean, there's a lot of ways, but I'll leave you with another one. The ego tends to be very frenetic. So the ego tends to be all about, gotta make it happen now. This is right now. Has to happen. I've got to do it. So the ego gets wrapped up with passion, with impulse, with lust, with delusion, with manicness, with all of that energy that's sort of all about right now, got to do it right now, it has to be now. It's another form of contraction. The inner knowing knows we've been doing this a long time. Long time. We've been coming back life after life after life for a long time. The inner self is very patient. Not complacent, not lazy, not apathetic or indifferent by any means, but patient. With an awareness that if it's really true, it's going to still be true tomorrow. It's going to still be true next week. And so there tends to be a frenetic energy where the ego is concerned, and a peace and a stillness and an expansion where the inner voice is concerned. And as you meditate more and more, and you connect more and more in your meditation with the inner knowing, it'll become a voice that's very familiar to you. And so then even when you hear it from a distance, you'll know, oh yeah, that's so-and-so. Like when you hear a loved one or a good friend from meters away, you know, oh, that so-and-so must be coming up the driveway. Because you know them. They're close to you. But when you hear someone's voice for the first time, it doesn't quite sink in. So make that inner knowing your close friend. Spend a lot of time with it in meditation so that you recognize the voice more and more.
So we have a question. How do you forgive the unforgivable?
How do you?
How do you forgive the unforgivable?
How do you forgive? Kotoria. Ni. Abtika? You forgive the unforgivable by realizing that forgiving does not make anything okay. Forgiving does not condone anything. We forgive because we deserve to be free. And even if that which has happened to us or to others whom we care about, even if the act is unforgivable, nonetheless, the victims of that act, the recipients of that act, the survivors of that act deserve to be free. And to not forgive denies freedom. So forgiving someone doesn't mean that what they did is okay. That is not the criterion that we use to determine whether to forgive. The only criterion that we use to decide whether to forgive is, do I want to be free? Acts may be unforgivable. But fortunately, we are not the karmic police. Fortunately, none of us has been given that duty to make sure that committers of unforgivable acts get their due. God has not told us to be the one to keep the list, to remind him, don't let me forget about this guy who's really got it coming to him. Fortunately, the law of karma is perfect. If I drop an apple off this rooftop, I don't have to remind it to fall to the ground. I don't have to yell out, hey, gravity, do your thing. Don't forget. It happens automatically. Because gravity is a law of the universe. In the same way, karma is a law of the universe. And when people do things, they get the karmic fruit. Not because it requires us to stand there and yell, hey, law of karma, make sure this guy doesn't get away. But because it's just a natural law. But by God's grace, we do not have to be the bookkeeper of the law of karma. We don't have to write down who's done what. We don't have to remember it. We don't have to hold on. Our duty and our dharma are very simple. To be free. Spiritually free. Not reckless, not decadent, not hedonistic, not lazy and complacent. That's not what freedom means. Tragically, a lot of times people think freedom is a license to decadence or a license to laziness. Hey, I'm free. That's not the freedom we mean. Because you're just a slave to your own fears, to your own patterning, to your own habits. Freedom is real freedom. Freedom is spiritual freedom. To not be a slave to our fears, our habits, our desires, our confusions, our addictions, our patterning, our neuroses, our histories, the chemistry and electricity in our brains and bodies. That's what freedom is. And so freedom is our highest calling. But if I'm holding on to a grudge, I can never be free. So my forgiving does not make the unforgivable forgivable. It just is a reminder to me from the universe. Hey, you deserve to be free. No matter what's been done to you. No matter what you've witnessed, no matter what you've been part of, you deserve to be free.
We have another question. What kind of food, how much should we consume in this time?
Food at this time. It depends. There's no equation. Some of us are living in the northern hemisphere where it's summer, where we should be eating lightly. Some of us are in the the southern hemisphere where it's winter. We're moving into a time where we'll need more warming foods. Some of us are confined to four walls that find themselves very close to each other, not getting much exercise at all. We should eat lightly. We're not burning it off. Other people may be frontline workers, going days without a hot meal. Other people may be at home, but dealing with taking care of 4 rambunctious toddlers, keeping the house clean, getting more exercise than most people do in a couple of hours at the gym. They need more energy. We're all different ages. We're different, what Ayurveda calls doshas, means different natures of the body. We all have different particular physical and immune systems, different pre-existing conditions, so there's no right answer. What's important, though, is that we eat healthily, because one thing is sure, regardless of where we are, regardless of our age, regardless of whether we are on lockdown in a tiny little room or in a mansion or a frontline worker, one thing is the same. We all need our immune systems to be functioning at their absolute highest. And what that means is that we need to take really good care. We need to eat as natural as possible, as pure as possible, as fresh as possible, as healthy as possible, as many vitamins and minerals and colors as possible. If you ask me any day of the year, I'm going to say vegetarian, vegan. It's the healthiest way for you. It's the healthiest way for the planet. Any day of the year. So eat in a way that keeps your immunity at its highest. Where it's hot, take in things that are cooling, natural. Where it's cold, take in things that are warming. There's beautiful herbs and spices that are so great for our immune systems. From ginger to turmeric, cinnamon, garlic and onions for those who eat them. So much. So many wonderful immune system boosting herbs and spices. We know. We know what's good for us. But our minds tell us, oh, I just want the French fries and junk food. Sometimes, no problem. It's not the end of the world. But right now, it's really important to keep your immune system strong. So right now, eat as pure, as simple, as healthy, as natural as you can. But also be sure, eat with love. Because the mental framework we are in when we eat is just as important as what we're eating. I heard a scientist, a doctor once say that eating when you are angry undoes all of the nutritional benefit of whatever you're eating. So you could be drinking the healthiest, green smoothies. But if you're angry, you're actually not going to get the benefit of it. So you're better off eating a bag of potato chips in peace, in love, in joy, than you are drinking a green smoothie if it makes you furious to have to drink it, or if you're furious at the person who made it for you. That being said, in general, green smoothies are much healthier than potato chips, so try to work with your anger and get in as much of the vitamins and minerals as you can. Lastly, fasting. Fasting is a wonderful tool anyway, but it's also a great kickstart for the immune system. Assuming that you are not immunocompromised, that you don't have a disease or an illness that requires a steady insulin rate, fasting for a day, even half a day, it's a really good thing for your body. So try that as well. But lastly, remember, eating is not only the food we take in our mouths. Eating is also that which we're reading, that which we're speaking, that which we're watching. So you could be eating organic salads and green smoothies and all of that. And if you're watching and engaging in violence, in negativity, that's also something you're taking in. And so be just as careful of that which is coming in through your eyes, through your ears, as that which is coming in through your mouth. As Puja Swamiji says, a fast for the senses. So make sure that we're feeding ourselves healthily on every level. Have a beautiful next couple of days. We'll look forward to being together with you on Thursday. Again, our lockdown satsang schedule is Tuesdays, Thursdays, Saturdays. Have a beautiful couple of days. So much love to you all.
Turvare